We are starting off with SmackDown now, and the show from Madison Square Garden opened with the arrival of a big black car, and everybody assumed the Bloodline was inside. Sure enough, Solo Sikoa, Tonga Loa, and Tama Tonga emerged, while Paul Heyman waited for them, and Heyman asked about the status of Jacob Fatu. Solo wouldn't answer, but take the faction to the entrance ramp, and it wasn't long before a massive brawl ensued involving Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. The fight ended with Tonga Loa going through a table courtesy of the prize fighter, and Nick Aldis had a whole team of security rush out to ringside, though one ate an RKO. It took the NYPD to calm the situation, as Cody and co finally headed backstage and left the arena, escorted by New York's finest, though Rhodes had some strong things to say first. On the mic, Rhodes said that this Bloodline is a watered-down version of the group he thought he'd finished at WrestleMania 40 and wasn't done there. Rhodes told Sikoa that despite his presumed assumption of Roman Reigns' vacated seat at the head of the table, he doesn't see a tribal chief, but rather a seat filler. It was only then that Rhodes and his allies headed backstage, escorted by police and Aldis, and the group drove away from the Garden together. Solo and co retreated to prevent any further damage ahead of their big six-man tag team match at Money in the Bank next week in a chaotic way to kick off SmackDown. Backstage, Heyman went to Solo Sikoa and begged him to allow him to be the wise man the same way he'd been to Roman Reigns, and a calm Solo said he followed Paul's advice. Solo added that Jacob Fatu was not an MSG, and this whole segment was one the crowd in the world's most famous arena absolutely loved. With that said, we did notice "We Want Roman" chants during the segment, another sign that the fans don't see Solo Sikoa as a leader in the way they acknowledge the tribal chief. But what's your take on the choice of PLE match, and what did you make of this segment? Sound off in the comments below. Later in the show, the Bloodline once again came out to officially induct Jacob Fatu into the faction in what was deemed a Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. Fatu entered the Garden despite Solo having told Heyman that he was not in the building, and Sikoa demanded each member of his Bloodline to acknowledge him. All three men obeyed his command, and Solo then turned to Paul Heyman to do the same, with Roman Reigns' red garland, and acknowledge him as tribal chief. A tearful Heyman refused to do so, leading to Solo knocking him down with a Samoan spike, and Fatu hit a top rope maneuver on the Hall of Famer. Solo ordered his trio to lay out Heyman with a triple powerbomb, a nod to Reigns' Shield days, and Paul was sent through the announce table in a shocking end to the show. Heyman, who is clearly not an athlete and is 58 years old, took it all like a champ, including what looked to be a particularly brutal bump through the announcer's table on the outside. We may have seen the last of Paul Heyman for a while, or we may have seen our biggest reason yet for Roman Reigns to return sooner rather than later. The show ended with the new Bloodline standing tall as the crowd chanted "F*** you Solo," and WWE had to censor this out, and this was a great way to kick off the next chapter of this story. On social media, video footage played of Heyman being taken away in an ambulance, and Heyman was strapped to a stretcher and did not speak at all. It remains to be seen when Heyman will return to TV, but after not acknowledging Solo Sikoa as tribal chief, the WWE Hall of Famer has paid the price. WWE is thankfully calling Fatu by his real name, Jacob Fatu, but the newest Bloodline member almost debuted under a different WWE name. On June 21st, WWE filed a trademark for Caesar Sikoa, and in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was noted that WWE initially planned for this to be Fatu's name. However, Triple H intervened and a decision was made to keep his real name under which he has wrestled since his 2012 debut. That being said, WWE filed to trademark his name, Jacob Fatu, and his nickname, the Samoan Werewolf. The current regime in WWE isn't as gung-ho about changing wrestler names as Vince McMahon was. McMahon wanted full ownership of the name and assurance that if the person left WWE, they couldn't use their WWE name elsewhere. The current regime will give new stage names to those starting out, but if you made your name elsewhere, they are unlikely to change it. This week, TNA taped episodes of Impact from Philadelphia, and the Prohibited Portal was opened again as one of NXT's top superstars appeared. During the taping, Charlie Dempsey, the son of William Regal, arrived and attacked Leon Slater, Trey Miguel, and a referee as the crowd chanted NXT at the star. This isn't Dempsey's first crossover as part of the WWE roster, as he competed in All Japan last December, where he teamed with Yuma Anzai to face Leona and Tatsumi Fujinami. At AJPW's New Year Giant Series, Dempsey challenged Katsuhiko Nakajima for the Triple Crown heavyweight title, but lost, and was part of GCW Bloodsport X in April. This is the latest sign of WWE and TNA working together, as Tatum Paxley recently appeared for TNA and challenged Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts title. But what's your take on Charlie Dempsey's surprise appearance? Who do you want to see cross the border between companies next? Let us know in the comments. More from MSG now, as Damian Priest had been scheduled for a dark match after the show in which the World Heavyweight Champion would have faced Jey Uso. Finn Balor and JD McDonough were listed to face the Awesome Truth, but plans had to change, and it appears Balor stepped up to replace his teammate. Unfortunately, Priest had travel issues, and his plane hadn't taken off an hour before SmackDown started, and it meant he would not be able to make his advertised match. On Twitter on Friday afternoon, Priest shared news of his travel issues, and while he was trying to make it to New York, later updated fans that he wouldn't make the dark match. Even without Priest, Jey and Balor were able to put on a great street fight, and this last-minute change is a testament to the skills of both men. In the end, Jey defeated the former Universal Champion, marking another victory for Uso over Balor after previously beating him in a Money in the Bank qualifier. Jey has made it clear that his goal is to head to Toronto to win Money in the Bank and fulfill his goal of being a world champion in WWE. Do you think that's what we'll see at Money in the Bank, or will somebody else capture the briefcase instead? Share your predictions down below. At the upcoming Money in the Bank PLE, the undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens are set to face off against the Bloodline. According to a report from Wade Keller of PW Torch, WWE Creative is reportedly planning a significant storyline twist involving Randy Orton. They intend to turn Orton heel during the match, where he would betray his own teammate Cody Rhodes, leading to their team's defeat against the Bloodline. At this year's SummerSlam, WWE fans may witness a clash between mentor and protege, as Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes are reportedly set to face off for the undisputed WWE Championship. Their matchup promises not only intense in-ring action, but also a deep narrative rooted in their shared history and diverging paths within the WWE landscape. What do you think about this booking? Do you want Randy Orton to take on Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship? If yes, who should win? Sound off in the comments below. If you liked what you've seen so far, please consider hitting the like button. More from SmackDown, as the opening bout of the show saw a triple threat Money in the Bank ladder match qualifier pitting Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, and Jade Cargill against each other. LeRae and Stratton double-teamed on Cargill and hit a double suplex, kicks, and punches on her, but Jade took them down with a clothesline and rocked LeRae with a backbreaker. A super kick was sent to Stratton, and Cargill followed up by tossing LeRae into the buff Barbie doll on the outside, but then Nia Jax would show up at ringside. Bianca Belair wasn't far behind, as LeRae clotheslined Stratton and hit a spike DDT, and at this point, Nia and Bianca had argued but hadn't interfered in the match. Indy Hartwell, on the other hand, came out through the crowd and sent Jade into the ring post, removing her from the equation, and Stratton would counter LeRae's moonsault. After getting her knees up, Tiffany hit her prettiest moonsault ever to win, and now joins Io Sky, Chelsea Green, and Lyra Valkyria in next week's ladder match in Toronto. But what did you make of this? Is Stratton your pick for the briefcase, or will someone else win instead? Share your predictions below. Jax showing up continues her newfound alliance with Stratton, but an awkward moment that was no fault of the Queen of the Ring led to WWE putting on a black screen. As Jax was coming out, the screen went black, and it appears as though a child showed a middle finger to her, which led to the censors cutting the feed temporarily. Fans will certainly be waiting for WWE to leave Fox in October 2024 when they return to the USA Network, as the hope is that USA will be a little more lenient than Fox. Triple H has already said that Raw will practically be censorship-free when it moves to Netflix in January 2025, and fans are hoping for the same for the Blue brand. There is an uncensored version that is doing the rounds online, where you can notice a child showing Jax the finger, but this censorship was exclusive to the Fox broadcast. Other networks have not censored the middle finger, and this is because WWE has to adhere to the rules in the $200 million a year deal with Fox Network. Fans watching in the USA were specifically annoyed as the black screen issues persisted even when Logan Paul was out for his Money in the Bank qualifier. When Paul made his entrance, he had a microphone in his hand and spoke about competing in a historic arena, but the show kept cutting to black. Paul arrived with Indiana Pacers player Tyrese Halliburton. The New York City crowd chanted "F Pacers," and Fox felt it necessary to cut the broadcast. This chant came after Paul said that he wanted someone in his corner who knew what it meant to win in MSG, and brought out Halliburton to the anger of the fans. These censor moments cut the flow this week, but this show was still an entertaining watch, even if someone was very trigger-happy in Fox's production office. This week's SmackDown saw the heel turn of Indy Hartwell and Candice Lerae continue, as after losing constantly, the pair are doing anything to win matches now, even cheating. Lerae's qualifier match may not have gone her way, but the pair were determined to break the rules if it meant Indy advanced in her qualifier match later in the show. That match saw Hartwell take on Naomi and Blair Davenport, and the match was going Indy's way until Jade Cargill attacked her, getting revenge for what happened earlier. This attack allowed for Naomi to pick up the win in advance, and after the match, it was announced that Cargill and Bianca Belair will face Lerae and Hartwell next week. This could be the start of a feud between these two teams, but with the heels turning bad because they kept losing, we have to wonder how they'll fare against Jade and Bianca. The last time the WWE Universe saw Alexa Bliss, it was at the 2023 Royal Rumble PLE, as the goddess would become pregnant shortly after and give birth in November. With the Wyatt Six now around, fans have speculated about Bliss's future in WWE, and now we have an update on her return to programming. Fightful Select reports that Bliss could be in action by the end of this year, and sources backstage believe Bliss will do more stuff with WWE during this period. WWE is open to bringing Bliss back and doing some things, but there's no concrete plans for her yet, and we'll have to wait and see whenever she returns to TV. In a men's ladder match qualifier, Santos Escobar, LA Knight, and his fierce rival Logan Paul faced off, with the US champ accompanied by Indiana Pacers' Tyrese Halliburton. Tensions ran high as the ongoing feud of Paul and Knight continued, while Escobar also looked to emerge on top and advance to the event in Toronto. The final moments saw Tyrese try and hand the brass knuckles to Paul, only to be stopped by Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks, who was at ringside. This gave Knight the opening to roll up Paul and get the win, earning a spot at Money in the Bank and further his case for a US title match. As Logan and Tyrese looked to attack LA Knight, Jalen came into the ring with a steel chair to even the odds and fend them off in a huge moment from the show. It was fortunate for the Knicks faithful in MSG that Jalen Brunson was in the crowd, and this segment suggested an inevitable showdown between him and Halliburton. As for LA Knight, he will now join Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade El Idolo, and Chad Gable in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and who do you expect to win? In early 2023, Stephanie McMahon stepped away from WWE, something she had planned on doing anyway before her father's temporary departure in 2022. With her father no longer running the company, Stephanie has made a few appearances for WWE in 2024, including at WrestleMania 40 and during this year's draft. Now McMahon has made her third appearance since leaving WWE, as on Twitter, it was shared that she was at ringside and watched this week's SmackDown in MSG. There's no word on whether Stephanie plans on returning to WWE in an official capacity, as right now, Nick Khan is the one in the main seat in the sports entertainment juggernaut. Khan has been praised for his work as head of WWE, but with the McMahon name forever tied to wrestling, it's hard to think Stephanie will ever truly be gone from the industry. In fact, Khan was also spotted in the audience during a dark match that took place before the show, as the WWE exec kept a close eye on his product from the Garden. But what do you make of Steph at SmackDown? Would you like to see her return in an official role, either on or off TV? Sound off in the comments. This week, Dijak shocked fans when he announced his abrupt exit from WWE, as June 28th was the final day under contract for the now former superstar. His exit from WWE comes just over a month after being called up to the main roster in the draft, and at the time, expectations were high after an impressive run in NXT. Speaking with Fightful, Dijak said that the draft is indeed a shoot and nobody knows if they'll be picked, and the ex-superstar was sat wondering if his name would be called. Dijak was supposed to enter an NXT title program, and with his contract ticking down, there was good reason to think that he wouldn't be moved to the main roster. With that said, Dijak was still on a main roster contract that he signed during his time as T-Bar, which made him think he would be picked, leaving him in a weird middle ground. Eventually, Dijak was picked in the supplemental draft, and said the instant he heard his name picked, his initial thought was, "I'm so screwed." Dijak recognized that with 1 month left on his contract, there wouldn't be any plans for him in place on Raw, but he still had to pretend to be happy about the news. Inside, Dijak was spiraling and texted his wife, "I think I'm completely screwed," and explained why he was sure WWE had nothing for him after his supplemental drafting. After the initial wave of emotions, Dijak tried to convince himself that maybe WWE will have a plan for him on Raw, especially after his run in NXT showed what he could do. When he got to the first post-draft Raw, he learned there was nothing for him, and this sank any hopes that he'd accomplish anything as Dijak on the main roster. This wasn't Dijak's first move to the main roster, as he'd previously been a part of Retribution, but that group accomplished very little on Raw. One highlight of the run saw Dijak, aka T-Bar, face then US champion Damian Priest in a no DQ match that saw the two NXT alums show how physical they could be. During the match, T-Bar bounced Priest's head off the ring apron, but it happened during a commercial break and not on TV, and Vince McMahon watched the match very closely. Speaking on the Twitch of Mason Mansour, Dijak recalled the November 1st, 2021 Raw and McMahon's feedback at the time. He said, "All of this, putting body through punishment, just to impress Vince, and I go to the back and he's fixated on the fact that I didn't grab someone aggressively enough in the break that nobody on television saw. This was just a moment where in my head, I just went, oh, they're looking for a reason to not like me, because it's pro wrestling, right? It's fake fighting. You can make up any shit you want. I was like, oh, the office wants me to fail. They're actively looking for reasons to not use me." On the stream, Dijak also spoke about WWE possibly making a new offer to him and said he would not be interested in listening to an offer simply by the nature of a WWE contract. When Mansour joked if he'd return for a promised run as WWE Speed Champion, Dijak said he had no intention of going back to WWE for the title not defended on TV. He added, though, that if WWE came to him with huge numbers of some promised, he'd consider getting it all in writing to make their promises to him legally binding. As for now, though, Dijak is ready to spread his wings outside WWE, and after a dud call-up, fans are intrigued to see what's next for him. But what do you make of his comments and his suddenly announced exit from WWE? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now, Pat McAfee has been a prominent figure on Monday Night Raw since his return at the Royal Rumble this year, joining veteran commentator Michael Cole on the announcer's desk. However, during the June 24th edition of Monday Night Raw, the former NFL player was notably missing. It was later revealed that his father-in-law had passed away unexpectedly after battling an infection in a hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, and outlined the entire events that led to the tragic incident. That said, the Wrestling Observer newsletter has now unveiled WWE's real plans for McAfee on Raw 6/24. According to the report, McAfee was slated to be involved in an angle with the Wyatt Six, as the evil faction had been consistently teasing McAfee on his talk show, The Pat McAfee Show. The report states, "He was apparently going to be a part of the Wyatt Six angle, since they had not only been working him in the angle on Raw, but also on his daily talk show they had done teases. We had figured that was why he missed the show because of those teases, and he was brought up in conjunction with the angle on the show." Considering that Wyatt Six has been dropping hints about going after McAfee after the "you lied" comment that flashed on his show, it stands to reason that the former NFL player could be on their hit list. Needless to say, McAfee may take some time off to spend with his grief-stricken family. However, it remains to be seen if WWE will go ahead with their plans upon McAfee's return. Kayla Braxton recently announced that she is set to leave the company following last night's edition of Friday Night SmackDown. While Kayla Braxton was taking her leave outside of the arena, a fan called out her name while recording her. Kayla noticed the fan and waved goodbye at them in a heartfelt visual. Amidst the rumors of a possible move to WWE's rival promotion AEW, Braxton addressed these speculations, making it clear that her departure from WWE was not due to a desire to continue working in wrestling. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that WWE was in talks with Kayla Braxton about a contract renewal. However, Braxton decided to not sign a new deal. As Kayla Braxton prepares to bid farewell to the global juggernaut, fans are eager to see where her career will take her next. What are your thoughts on Kayla Braxton making the call not to renew her WWE contract? Sound off in the comments. And we're ending today with former WWE Women's Champion Asuka, as her WWE future had been up in the air until it was confirmed that she underwent surgery recently for her injury. There has been very little information on the multi-time champion being on hiatus, but now backstage sources have revealed an update on when she might return to the ring. The injury appears to be a lingering issue, as she was seen limping a few months back. The new report from Fightful noted that the 20-year veteran is not expected back in the ring by the end of this year, according to people in WWE. Further details on the actual injury were not disclosed. While the 42-year-old is likely looking at a 2025 return, anything is possible when it comes to getting medically cleared, and everything would depend on how her rehabilitation and recovery is going. Why AEW female wrestlers refuse to train. And did Wyatt Six hint about their next attack in their cryptic tweet? If you'd like to know more about this story and more, please check in the end screen here or click the link in the description field. Thanks for watching.